right, it is the kickoff of the Alignment is the Assignment live stream series. Are you ready to grow and progress and while living on purpose? Listen, we really hope that you are. You will be in for a treat on today. This series is the alignment of the mindset. Today, you will understand how your mindset directly impacts your ability to really just manifest your greatness. Now, if you're wondering what in the world is alignment is the assignment, what is this talk all about? I'm going to go ahead and fill you in. But before I do, let me introduce myself. My name is Rochelle Edrington. I'm a digital marketing specialist with VPro Marketing and Sales, where I specialize in helping service-based businesses and nonprofits just really achieve better results with their online marketing. And this is...
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tami Dykes. I'm a local real estate agent, and I'm extremely happy and honored to be here with you guys and along with our guests.
All right. Listen, y'all, this is a passion project for Tami and I. We are teaming up for this 4-week live stream series where you will hear from passion-filled leaders from various fields who will really just explore the concept of alignment and its importance on the pursuit of purpose. So during our time together, we are going to touch on the importance of aligning your mind, your mindset, body, and heart and soul so you can achieve your lifelong dreams. Or your lifelong goals, whatever that may be. But at the end of the day, if you don't remember anything else, all the gems that are going to be dropped, we just really want you to understand and always remember that alignment is the assignment. And also, this is series 1 of 4. We also, once this is all over, we want you to go ahead and head on over to the alignment.life and be sure to register for the upcoming series, okay? We want to shout out those that are on Facebook currently watching this live stream, tuning in, whoop, whoop. And we also want to give a huge shout out to those that are here in the Zoom meeting that is going to stay an extra 15 minutes once we're done, and we're going to do what we call the after party, which is a FAQ where it's personalized and we get to get some questions answered, right? But it is going to be a good time, and we hope that you stay for the ride and just join us on this journey, okay? But listen, y'all, we have some esteemed guests today. Before I pass the virtual mic, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Miss Sequoyah Sherrill. Listen, Sequoyah is a clinically trained marriage and family therapist currently working in DMV. For those that don't know, that's DC, Maryland, Virginia area. Sorry. Sequoyah received a Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology from Hampton University and a Master's in Couple and Family Therapy from Drexel University. Sequoyah has training in trauma, CBT, multisystemic therapy, and assertive community treatment. Sequoyah believes education and awareness are the key to breaking the stigma surrounding mental health. Sequoyah currently serves as the co-founder and COO of Solid Ground and the founder and CEO of On My Couch, Sessoms and the Virtual Building LLC, where she supports courageous leaders in cultivating liberatory spaces for individuals to be their full, authentic selves. Through strength-based approach, Amber invites her learners to rediscover their natural inclinations by utilizing her 3D power tools framework to guide participants on a self-awareness journey to re-examine the narratives that tell us our differences are bad or undesirable, thereby leading us to betray ourselves and others. Listen, y'all, esteemed guests, did you hear me? All right. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and pass the virtual mic over to Miss Tami Dykes. Go ahead.
I'm going to grab that mic. Woo, woo, woo. Thank you so much for that intro, Rochelle. As Rochelle said, this is a passion project, and we just are over the moon of how things in the past 6 months have come along. And we're excited to kick off tonight with the mindset, the alignment of the mindset. So tonight's objective for our audience is to educate people on the mindset and how the mindset shapes our lives specifically. And what our desired outcomes is will be to share some practical tools and information that those in our audience will be able to implement almost immediately to change the way they think about themselves and others in the world around them. All right, so let's jump right into it. All right, guys. So our first question, and this will be to both of you guys, not one or the other, but we'll kick off by just explaining to our viewers about the power of mindset and how mental health directly impacts those leading to manifest their lives, manifest greatness in their lives. So how does that work? Was that clear? Maybe not. Well, both y'all on mute. Y'all got to join me in the room. I'm out here by myself.
Am I in here in the room?
All right, here we go. All right, we're all in the room. So let me just repeat the question. So let's just kick off by starting let's discuss how the power of the mindset and mental health directly impacts one's ability to manifest their greatness or their purpose in life.
I'm gonna let our esteemed clinician, if you wouldn't mind, you do this day in and day
Absolutely.
out.
Absolutely. So, okay, first we have to start by talking about what mental health is, right? Because we really have to get an understanding of what it is that we're actually talking about, right? So when we think about mental health, we think about I think about wellness. There's 8 areas of wellness and they all go hand in hand. So we can't eliminate one and then think about the other 7 or the other 6. We got to think about it all. So it's all very collective. Like, it's your physical, it's your mental, it's your emotional, it's your financial. All of those things go hand in hand to ultimately feed your mindset. So I think when we talk about mental health, we have to think about the definition of what mental health means. It's not just the brain, it's not just your mental. Like there's so many other pieces that kind of work together to make sure that you are your whole self, right? That you can show up as your whole self. And so when we think about those 7 to 8 dimensions of wellness and we think about what mental health means, then we can honestly start to think about mindset, right? Only then can we really address mindset after we kind of address those other areas. Because only when we are working collectively within those 7 to 8 areas can we truly then get to the point of mindset and moving past that. So I just want to start there and kind of pause there, that mental health is its own entity, but it has so many components to it. And those components then feed your mindset, which ultimately ensures that, you can actually get to your purpose. So when I think about, mindfulness, I think that it starts there. We got to talk about not just our brain, not just, how we think. We got to think about what we invest in. So that's the financial. We got to think about what we're eating. So that, that's the nutritional. We got to think about what we're investing in. So that's the financial. So they kind of all go together as a collaborative effort. And only when we get to a space where we can honestly address each and every one of those components, can we honestly move towards what it is that we need for ourselves in terms of making sure that we're aligned with what it is that we need to give the world, if that makes sense. So in terms of what my perspective is as a clinician, when it comes to my work, I start with that with my clients. I start with each avenue of wellness of their lives. And only then do we move to the next part of in terms of a mindset, right? Because only when we get you connected with each of those components, then we can start to really focus on your mental mindset because it's a holistic experience. If that makes sense. So when it comes to mindset impacts every aspect of your life, but only when your mental is connected with your physical and your financial and the other components of wellness can we honestly talk about moving beyond the mental, if that makes sense. So as a clinician, that's what I work towards, helping my clients understand that it's not just your mental. It's not just what people identify as mental health, because mental health can sometimes it can just encompass just your mental, but it's a holistic experience. And I think so many times we leave that part out.
No, I want to thank you for that, because I think we oftentimes use mindset and mental health interchangeably, and you just crystal cleared it for me. And it's like, no, they are not one of the same. In fact, one is more, all encompassing, and the other is a little bit more specific, but they feed into and work off of each other. So thank you for that. Dr. Sessoms, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, just echoing everything you said. What was coming to mind for me is that, right, we are not these bifurcated people. So you're talking about we are whole beings. So a lot of the work that I do when I start out with talking about emotionality, so I'm getting them to name their emotions and where they feel it in their body. So right, when I get tense, I feel like there's a hamster wheel running on my chest. All right. Or I feel like a lot of weight on my chest. And I know like my therapist, she'll be like, get in your body. I'm like, I don't want to. Right. Like sometimes it's not safe to be in my body, but I know that my body is my greatest teacher. So I have learned from my trauma, right, to disassociate. So I can go numb. I cannot feel that. But when I can be in touch with my body is telling me something I need to pay attention to. And that's usually my first indicator that I don't feel safe, or something's going on, or I don't feel supported, or I'm not showing up as my full self. So when I can get in touch, like I'm feeling tense, I'm getting some tension here, I feel like a hamster wheel, I'm feeling something on my chest, or sometimes my Apple Watch will go off, right? And let me know my heart rate is high and I'm at rest. It's like, why my heart rate going high? Those are key things for me to tune into my body and bring that awareness of what is this here to teach me? Like my body's trying to tell me something. A lot of times we don't listen to it, right? Like we numb ourselves in various ways, whether it's alcohol, drugs, like TV, food. But getting in touch with your body is something that I don't think we do enough of. So I really love the somatic work that's coming out now, getting in touch and like moving your body, like getting in touch with like, how do I feel safe when I'm looking around, or like getting to that vagus nerve, all these things that we can do to start calming our bodies to get to a place, a baseline, so that we can actually receive, right, the blessings, or receive and be aware of what's going on around us, being more present.
I really love that you said, you just said, my body is my greatest teacher, and how you listen to your body is something that I've implemented over this past, I want to say, 12 to 18 months, is anytime I feel that biometric response, right? I often say, what do I need in this moment? And I have two options. It's either internally or externally. So, what is that? Do I need affirmation? Do I need reassurance? Or do I need to just feel grounded? Do I need to go out in nature? What do I need in this moment? And so thank you for sharing that. That was a blessing and a confirmation.
Yeah, that's a really good question to ask. Like, how do we nourish our needs? Yeah.
What do I need? Yeah, what do I need? Because it's not always that I need something out. What I've learned is that I don't always need something externally. Like you said, I don't need a drink. I don't need a partner. Sometimes it's something inside that I need to speak to, right? Mm-hmm. And then that manifests my next move. So if I need reassurance, where is that coming from? Why do I feel that way? So thank you for that. So our next question leads us to, what are your thoughts about the power of the mind and its role in creating the life that we want? So how does our mind control our behaviors, and how does that formulate into what we try to get out of life? Does that make sense? What you got for me, Sequoyah?
Me first.
We're going to Venus and Serena here. We just going to tennis match back and forth.
Okay. I love it. Mindset is everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's start there. So mindset is everything, right? So here's the thing about being an entrepreneur. You have to put yourself in a different space, because I think that a lot of times, even as a mental health provider, like mindset, a lot of times within your own self is kind of looked beyond, right? Like, I feel like people assume, especially in this field, people assume like you're good, right? Because you're the clinician, or you're the professional, or you're the expert. But like, so many times I find that if I'm not okay, I don't even show up okay in my sessions, right? Like, I'm not okay, and I don't know what better way to put that, but I don't show up. If my mindset is not okay, like I have a morning routine to get my mind together. So I don't see clients until 10 a.m. because between the hours of 7 and 10, I have to get myself together, right? So who am I to give you any advice or align with you, or even, identify where your mindset needs to be if I haven't already established my own? So sometimes, and sometimes if my mindset is not there, I'm very big and very notorious for letting my clients know that I can't come. I cannot have session, because I don't want to put what I have on you, right? I don't want that to impact anything that we have going on. And how can I be anyone that's professing anything about what you're doing, and if not authentically showing up for myself and doing that for myself? So for me, authenticity really informs all of my work. I'm not saying anything that I'm not doing. And I make that very clear with my clients. So for me, mindset is all that I do, and I'm not preaching it to them and not doing it within myself, right? And so I think that sometimes we can be perceived, we are the experts. It's not even perceived as the experts. We are the experts. People look to us as the experts. People look to us as the pros. So when I talk about mindset, I'm very real with my clients. I'm very real with the world about where I am, you know, and what I can do and what I can provide them. And if I can show up for them, because if I can't, I make that very clear, because it's okay to not show up, because you got to show up for yourself sometimes, right? Like not even sometimes, all the time you have to show up for yourself. And so in moments where you feel like you can't show up for yourself, I make it very clear to my clients that I can't show up for them either. It's almost like the airplane, right? I make that very clear to my clients. Like if you're on an airplane, do not reach for your child. Do not reach for your husband. Do not reach for anybody first. You must first put the mask on yourself to be able to help anybody else. And that kind of goes for life, you know? If you're really trying to help anyone get to anywhere else mentally, you gotta be somewhere else mentally yourself. You can't expect for them to go somewhere you haven't been. And so for me, if I'm not there mentally, I say it. I'm very clear about it, you know, and I tell them that because they also need to be able to use that same language. They need to be able to tell people they can't, you know, and that's okay. But I feel like historically for so long, we haven't been given that language. We haven't been given that flexibility. We haven't been given that grace. And so I give that grace to my clients because I realized that in the world, I wasn't given it, if that makes sense. So in being an entrepreneur and creating this mental health organization and creating this space where it's okay, I'm also very vulnerable and very open about the fact that it wasn't created for me and that's why I'm creating it. So that's my take on it.
See, she's just like all this stuff. It's all coming up for me. So you're talking about it wasn't there for me, right? So you're making me think of like, so my therapist, I had never had a Black therapist ever, which was a problem. The last therapist I had when I was talking about the racism I was ignoring, she said, I don't get it. And I'm like, that's like one-on-one. You never say like, you don't get it. So she didn't get it. She told me I needed to be more feminine. And I was just like, no, I can't do this. So the next one, I got a Black woman. And I said, listen, I'm gonna need you to bring it. You gotta give it to me straight. And when I say she brings it, she said one day, she's like, when are you gonna start doing the work that you do with your clients with yourself? And I said, ooh. I said, ouch, right. And I said, oh, shoot. Oh, you're right. Okay. So I was getting ready to do a retreat. And we were doing this healing retreat with, you know, local abolitionists and leaders in the work. And we were doing a journey line. I said, I'm going to do the exact same work that you're doing. And in that moment, I was realizing that the narratives I created in my own head about where I fit in and stories that I tell myself. So, you know, you have your peaks and your valleys in your life, and there's beliefs attached to them. So my dips are that my mom abandoned me at the age of 4. You know, she had addiction issues, mental health issues. And so I believe that, right, I wasn't enough, that I wasn't lovable enough. I didn't deserve protection. I had issues with witnessing verbal abuse. And I thought I always had to be the one to defend, right? Seeing alcoholism in my family. So I'm always like, I have to be the one to defend. I have to protect everyone. And that carried out through my entire life into present day, where I'm like, I'm going to deplete myself to make sure everyone else is okay. I'm going to protect and try to save everyone. And meanwhile, I'm like, what is that doing to myself? It's killing me. That weight on my chest is because I'm trying to provide and protect, but only person I can control and only person I need to save is myself. So that journey line really helped me to be like, oh my gosh, these stories are how I survived, right? This is how I survived and how I made it through these traumas, but I have to let that go. That's and honor the ways I survived. But now it's time to move on. Do I still need to show up in those same ways? Do I still need to be so defensive? Do I still need to be in that protection mode all the time? Or can I let some of that go? So it's unlearning those beliefs that we had along the way, honoring, yes, it got me through, but also I don't always have to wear the cape. I don't always have to be the one, like, right? That's a thing I have to unlearn as a Black woman. You got to work 10 times as hard. That's tired. I'm over it. It's killing us. I'm over it. I'm like, if I want to sit around and eat some popcorn or just like lay around, do nothing, I'm gonna do that. And I'm working through that, right? Because it's still like, I should be doing something, but it's this unlearning and giving myself permission. And the other thing Sequoyah said that really touched me was that she talked about authenticity. And that's a reason why I entered there, because I felt like in that time of my life that I was misaligned, that I wasn't showing up as my full self. I do a lot of work talking about your core values. So my core value is authenticity. Like I'm going to show up as me. And I'm always asking myself, is it safe to be myself here? And if it's not, then I got to do some work here. Like, is the environment, how am I not showing up? And when I can show up as myself, right, it's giving permission for others to do the same. So I'm really key on that. And curiosity, I call myself a perpetual toddler. So I'm always asking why to get to the root of the problem. But that curiosity is key. And then connection is really key for me. So if I can't show up and execute those core values, then that is not a space I want to be in. That's not a relationship I need to be in, because it's not filling or affirming to me, but it's getting in touch and knowing that about myself. And that's always my internal compass where I know when am I in alignment, out of alignment, and how I can check myself and make sure that I'm showing up the way I need to show up.
So 2 key things that you both said. Sequoyah mentioned that, saying that they can't, allowing ourselves to say, basically saying no and being okay with it, knowing that no is a complete sentence. And then the perpetual toddler. Oh man, you hit me on that.
I love that. I love that.
That is everything, right? Because I've been in that space. So for those just joining us, we are speaking with Miss Sequoyah Sherrill and Dr. Amber Sessoms. So if you're joining us tonight, is the alignment of your mindset. We're discussing how can the power mindset and mental health directly impact our ability to manifest our greatness. So those of you in the room, thank you for joining. We will have a after party after this where you'll be able to join us in the room and speak with our esteemed guests and bring up anything that you may want. You can also drop questions and comments in the chat. Rochelle is helping us out with that. So thank you for that. Rochelle, we got anything we need to address? Or are we good? Good.
No, we good to rock and roll. I mean, listen, I'm over here trying to focus and take notes and make sure everybody good. I'm like, oh, hold on. It's yes, let's keep rock and rolling.
All right. So Dr. Amber Sessoms, one of the things that you speak about in your practice is that differences are not bad or undesirable or getting us out of that mindset. Tell me where that came from and what are the things that you share with your clients on how to come out of that mindset that differences are bad or undesirable.
Yeah, I think, I grew up in Middletown. We were talking about this before the show. So not many people that look like me that graduated in my class. So very early on, like right when we enter formal education, I truly believe that's like where we learn that white supremacist ideation, right? It's like, it's there, it's ingrained in us. Like, here's how we have to show up. We're going to teach you how to be a certain way, civilized. And if you show up a different way, that's a problem. You get othered so quickly, right? When you enter education, and we affirm our kids and then they enter school and we spirit murder our kids. So that's really where it started for me, and thinking about when I showed up in school, very clearly there was a narrative about me that I didn't necessarily know to be true until I entered that formal environment where I'm like, oh wait, my skin's different, my hair is different. Everyone's like, can I touch your hair? Or, they were making fun of me when I got darker in the summer, so I didn't go outside in the summer. There's all these things that I was learning about, that it was not desirable, that I was ugly, that my hair was nappy. And I'm like, where did I learn that? But it really was being in that formal education space, which is why I think another reason why I became a school psychologist, because a lot of that is ingrained there. There's actually, I don't know what her formality is, but she does a lot of work in social emotional learning. And she talks about, so in education, we talk about social emotional learning and how we are going to teach kids to be holistic. But one of the things she talks about is like, it can be white supremacy with a hug, right? So we can say, this is the way to show up and this is how you should be. But if we're talking about be kind, like that's a big thing in schools, be kind, but we don't actually address the oppressive systems that are happening in schools and how it's driving kids, right? A lot of work I do is like look at narratives and dialogues and kids and like letting them come to voice. And they will talk about, if I'm overweight, if I have acne, if my skin's dark, things in terms of even having a whipping app. There's an app that you can make a whipping sound on your phone, and white children are going around whipping this app at Black and brown children and calling them monkeys. These are things that's like, it's just, there's TikTok trends, there's all these things are happening. And what I just was in a space leading a group of middle schoolers, and this young Black boy is telling me this, an 8th grader, and he's smiling as he's telling me that. And I had to pause and I say, I 100% get that, because we normalize, right? It's in order to keep from crying, in order to keep from the rage, we think it's okay. And I'm like, that is so harmful. That is not okay that you're experiencing that. But you just say, it's okay. So I grew up thinking, growing up in Middletown, being one of the only ones was okay. I turned out okay, right? And then I decided to move to a neighboring district that's 1.8% Black. But I was okay. And then my oldest daughter is like, I don't like it here. It is not safe for me here, right? And these are the kind of things that I've normalized, that we are always supposed to feel this type of way. We always have to fight against this. And I'm like, that is a thing that we took on, that we have to shed, that we have to say, my dignity is inherent and I don't need to do anything to deserve it simply because I exist. But we haven't been taught that in this commodification, this society that we're in, that it's like, we have to do something, we have to produce something to be successful, which is why I was always a perfectionist, because then I can show up this way. But then that came this narrative that, well, she thinks she's smart, but she's smart for a Black girl. And what does that mean? So I would question and be like, so then Black girls aren't smart, on the exception to what rule is that? So these rules that we buy into, and that we're always trying to fit in this box. And I'm like, we got to shed the box. If I can show up as myself, if I can, I have all these piercings, right? My mom hates it. I have my head shaved. She's like, you're not professional. What does that mean? Who decided what professional is? I don't like Robert and his rules. I don't like Norm. I don't like none of that stuff. Like, how do we show up as ourselves? Because these are things that who created that leave us in the box. And I can talk to white men in the room for that, and they can still see that they're showing up as someone that they don't have to be, that they were told, this is how I had to be professional, I had to be a leader. Who told you that? Let's shed that and show up as yourself. And when you can show up as yourself, the richness and wisdom that we have is what's going to change this. But we keep boxing ourselves in, so nothing changes. It stays the same.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Sequoyah, I wanted to chat with you a little bit about the program that you provide, Therapreneur, and how societal norms of high achieving women and mental health coincide or work against each other.
So I recently just launched this program for Therapreneur training. Like, it's a new thing, primarily because of what my experience was in launching. I co-own an outpatient mental health clinic in Maryland. And much like Amber said, it's very much so expected that I don't own it, right? We don't own it. So when we show up, a lot of our conversations and a lot of what we need to do in terms of politicking looks like conversations with white men, to be blatant. Right? Because these are the policymakers, these are the people that are investing money, all of these things, right? So what I understood was that therapy was needed in our community by people who look like us, right? By people who could show up as themselves every day, right? And when I started doing therapy, I didn't show up with a suit and, loafers. My first experience with showing up for therapy, we took therapy where it was needed, which was the hoods. So I showed up and I was sitting on couches. I'm sitting on bedroom sets. I'm sitting on the floor. I'm bringing my own chair, to really bring the healing to the space where it was needed, if that makes sense. So when I seen that and I understood what that meant for our community and where it could really take us, I was like, you know what? The problem is that we don't have enough of us to go around. Okay. So the reason why we see these shortages in therapists and Black therapy in the community is because there's not enough of us to go around. Right. And much like Amber said, Dr. Amber, let me not even get it twisted, because I'm going to give you all your accolades, baby. Okay. Because you work for them. What Dr. Amber said is so important and so necessary is that in a lot of these spaces, and a lot of what we're doing in terms of mental health and therapy is identified by European culture. Okay. So we're not showing up as our authentic selves, right? We're not doing the work. We're not really authentically helping our people. If we're expecting them to come into an office and to look a certain way and to abide by a certain way to talk, to tell their stories, because let's be clear about therapy. Therapy is just not about healing. A lot of what we do is listen to people's stories. And that's where true connection comes. So when I'm doing my Therapreneur training, it's mostly with people who look like me, because we haven't been given the opportunities to really create spaces for our people to feel safe. So a lot of the work that we're doing are nonprofits, for-profits, where we're getting very minimally paid. Like, I mean, when I tell you in this therapeutic arena, it's sad. Like, when we come out of grad school, we have over $100,000, $200,000 in loans, right? But they expect us to take $45,000, $50,000 jobs, right? Even with a license. I think in Maryland, it's like the most you can make is like $75K, which seems like a lot. But when you think about $200,000 worth of loans that you're stacked up against, and when we think about what we learned in those graduate programs, do they really inform what we're doing with our people? Probably not, right? So what my Therapreneur training does is help them unlearn all that they learned in grad school, help them understand their own internal magic, and about how, like, a lot of these organizations are paying us not half, not a third, about a fourth of what they're really getting reimbursed from insurance companies. And it's only because of ignorance, because you can go get paneled on your own. You can have a license and operate independently and do your own billing, right? And you could be more successful at grabbing these clientele from the groundwork who really need them. Because a lot of these organizations are taking these clients from other organizations. There's so many people in the world that need this help. So many people that look like us that need our help. But because we are bogged down by these jobs and these salaries and these license requirements,
all of these things that the white man gave us, essentially. So my therapreneur training it was essentially created to help beat down some of these barriers. Some of these barriers that they make us feel like we can't do independently, right? Because they make us feel like we can't get paneled. We can't individually bill insurance. We can't, if I bill insurance for a session through Medicaid, I get $135 per hour. But you're gonna pay me $35 to see that client when you got reimbursed $150. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they make it so that it's hard to make a living and do what it is that you love, And so when I established a therapreneur program, it was to help Black women, Black people, people who look like me, who wanted to provide the service, who wanted to be in this field, who felt like they couldn't make a living, who felt like they couldn't even pay their own. We're helping to build people up, but we can't pay our own bills. What does that look like? So I created the therapreneur program, so I can help people understand that therapists can create their own empires, can create their own programming, can shift state legislation, can advocate for larger communities, right? But only when we own these things can we do that. Because we work for other people, we don't know anything about it, right? So or they don't want us to show up. They put other people in place. So when I created this training, it was to help other therapists who look like me, because there's so little of us. And so many of us now are only accepting cash because we don't know what it looks like to really be able to sustain off of insurance. And so therapreneur was created to help people who look like us feel more comfortable going into this field and feel like they can actually make a living for themselves. Because coming out of grad school, I see no reward in staying in this field. Everybody that looked like me in this community, I went to Drexel University. The people who were my mentors had 5 jobs. That don't even make sense to me. 5 jobs? What, sis? You got a private practice and you work for the university? And why? Because they make you feel like you have to. And so only when you build your own can you really understand that you have the ability to do whatever, and you have the ability to establish whatever programs you feel your community needs. So that's why I established
essentially you're birthing new therapists in a safe space, right? A safe and supportive space.
And helping people who don't want to be in mental health understand that you can come to mental health and make a little money. You're not, because the reality of it is why people generally stay away from this field is because, why am I going to get all this education and all these licenses and only make 60K, only make 70K, maybe 50K. In DC, when I first came to DC, with a master's degree, I was making $35,000. What can you do with $35,000 in DC?
I like how you came closer to the camera at that point, because that I felt that. What
can I do with 35 grand? So I got a boot on my car. You want me to help this person with therapy, but I got a boot on my car? How does that work?
I felt that. All right, Dr. Amber Sessoms, anything you want to add to what she said?
I think about it is like this equity gap that we have. So in terms of school psychology, one of the things that we have to do a year-long internship. So it's 1,200 hours. And I did this in 2008, and I think I made $12,000 for the whole year. You're working full time, and I got health insurance. So I was like the one in my cohort, like, oh, she got health insurance. Like that does not happen. So there's all this stuff, like all this work, all this training you have to get for usually nothing. Who can do that in today's world? Like who can work a whole year on nothing? So these programs we have to change. And I even know when I was taking my daughter to the doctor, so the neurologists and stuff, they're talking, they're like, I got my degree before you got yours, right? You could become a medical doctor a lot of times before you can become a psychologist. Like that is how backwards it is, like how much training you have to get. And that debt you're talking about is real and that is valid. So how do you, I know in Pennsylvania, we've done some work in terms of like, how do we create stipends and have opportunities from the state to say, okay, how do we get more people in our field? Because they're not coming in the field, especially people that look like us, we're unicorns. It's just not happening. Right? One is because it's not safe. So we didn't learn anything we need to learn appropriately in the program. The cultural responsive pedagogy, like that stuff, it's all theoretical. We don't really learn it. You don't necessarily feel safe in those spaces. So a lot of times people they quit. right? Like, so you're going to these institutions that are white supremacist cultures. You don't feel safe. It's a hard program. There's so much work to do, and you leave because of the burnout, because it's just not what you need to do. So you go elsewhere, because how much money are you gonna make, right? We joke about psychology bachelor's degree. You can't do anything with it. Like, you know, when kids say, I'm gonna be a psychologist, I'm like, you're gonna be in school forever, right? But think about that forever. And racking
And
up
working
that.
for free for a long time.
Working for free for a long time. So this is the stuff that keeps us out of it. And we know, like, when that's why I said, are you accepting new clients? And I'm always looking for people that look like us that are accepting new clients. You know, I'll refer people to like inclusivetherapist.com and those places, but it is so hard because there's such a need, especially with COVID, right? Like, there's such a need exponentially of therapists that look like us, that understand us, but there's such a dearth in like being able to provide services, because you're capped, right? This is the only people that I can see. I can't take any more clients. Where are we going to find them? I'm in Pennsylvania, but someone's in DMV area, but I can't do teletherapy there. Like, all of these barriers that are in place that weren't necessarily there at the beginning of COVID. And now they said, okay, now we're going to go back to only in-state. All these barriers that are in place, and there's such a crisis going on, particularly in Black and Brown communities, that we're just not addressing.
Awesome. So really quick, one of our objectives is to give our audience some practical tips that they can use to implement immediately to change the way they think about themselves, others, and the world around us. So I wanted to touch on the idea of being present. How does one become present? I'm a recovering perfectionist, and I learned that my perfectionism, or my attempt at perfectionism, would almost always take me out of being present in the moment. And as I unlearned those unhealthy behaviors, I became more present. But those were something I didn't necessarily get from a clinician or a therapist. It was being more mindful, right? But I would want to come to you to unicorns to share with our audience. Could you give us 3 practical tips on how to be present in our day-to-day lives? Healthily present in our day-to-day lives. Dr. Sessoms, do you want to go with that first? Sequoyah told me no, she's not first.
One of the things that I do, I notice, again, like being attuned with your body. So for me, I am a shallow breather. I rarely get a full breath in, right? And I know, like, if I can ground myself in my breath. So to Sequoiah's point, like, starting in the morning, I was following this, like, I don't know, Curly Nikki has, like, I've been following her for years. Like, she was a natural hair blogger. I might be aging myself. I think I am. Like, and Black Girl Long Hair was this thing, like, back in the day, like, they had like this blog, and like Black Girl Long Hair was like pro-Black, and Curly Nikki was kind of like on Dr. Oz and doing her thing. But now she's a therapist too. So she's morphed into like this mindfulness practice and aligning herself with God. So in the morning, she does these morning meditations. So you can, before you start your day, get out of the bed. Because I noticed I will wake up and my heart's already racing. I used to wake up feeling like I was dying in the middle of the night. I wake up feeling like, and take my pulse, thinking I'm like, my body's telling me something, right? Because I wasn't processing it as I was awake. I kept myself numb and busy. So how was my body's going to process it when I was asleep? And I would wake up like thinking that I'm dying. So I had to check myself, what do I need to do to get back into my body? But your body is going to release it some kind of way, right? Like, so what is that going to look like for you? It's going to be medical, physical, something like that. But that's how my body was releasing it. And I was like, I'm fine. No, I wasn't. But that is one of the things I do, like getting attuned with my breath. So throughout the day, if I feel the fluttering, I would just ground myself right where I'm at, grounding my feet. When you talked about getting in touch with nature, that is huge. That is, I noticed during COVID, I was buying all these plants. I'm like, why am I buying all these plants? But there's something called like biophilia. Like, literally, we are connected with earth. Like, we are one with nature. Like, we try to act like we are all grounded. We are living creatures. The creator created all of these things. So sometimes I'll ask myself, what is that in nature that is also in me? Like, the plants that fold up, and I have these prayer plants that they curl up at night. I curl up at night. Just looking at my dogs, or like just looking at things in nature, that there's seasons that change. Like, how am I like getting in tune with that? But also, like, I gas myself up. I have to do that because the world tells me I'm trash every day. So I will gas myself up, and I'm like, well, what are my strengths? You can ask people, like, what are the things that you're really bad at? You can give me like 10, 20 things, right? But if I ask you, what are you really good at? We struggle with that. But there's something, and I'll put it in the chat, but there's something called VIA character assessment that we do a lot in school psychology. And it's just a quick assessment tool you can take, evidence-based, but it'll give you like your 5 characters. And we do some work in terms of like, when you're speaking to people, what do you hear them saying about their journey? And what are the strengths that they have? So having someone else affirm that for them, it's like, oh, Because sometimes you can't do it for yourself, but someone else does it. Believe when people are telling you, right? When people are telling you like, you're really good at this and you don't want to believe it. Like now 5, 6 people done told me this. Why'd I keep turning away from that, right? But that practice has really helped to ground me and be affirmed to be like, yes, I can be confident in who I am and what my gifts and talents are. And I don't have to shrink, own that. The world needs that.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Oh, that list. So it brought me back to an exercise when I was in a professional setting, and we take the paper to our back. Each person had to go around and write on our back what 3 things that they thought about us. And after that, we had a list of positive things. And after you read it, you go, I didn't know they thought that about me. And you start to, you know, bring that into yourself and affirm that for myself. I am this, I am that. So thank you for sharing that. Sequoyah, same question. What tips would you give our audience on how to be present in our day-to-day lives?
Sorry, I had a little second on the mute, trying to get the mute off. Trying to get the mute off. So I would say, first and foremost, like in the morning, establish a routine. Like I feel like our mornings, like I don't know about anybody else, but like I feel like the first thing we as Americans tend to do is immediately go to these things, right? Detrimental. We immediately look to the world before we look within. So I say start your mornings by looking within. You know, spend at least an hour looking within. What is it that you like to do? Are you praying? Are you meditating? You know, are you reading a book? Are you exercising? Are you watering your plants? Like that makes a difference in your day. And beyond that, like, let's do more of like social spaces, right? We do a lot of cell phone, social media, especially social media. Take some time away from social media. Take some time away from social media. If it's not for your business, if it's not for the betterment of who you are, like you have to be aware of where your mindset is. Like social media does so much to our minds that we don't even realize, right? We wake up in the mornings, the first thing you do is go to Facebook, go to Instagram. And what are we faced with? Marriages, babies. And not to say those are bad things, right? But like our society is already so competitive. If you're waking up and the first thing you're doing at 8 a.m. is going to Facebook and seeing that people are married and people are having babies and people are doing this for business, you're not giving yourself time to be grateful for where you are presently, right? You're immediately tapping into where everybody else is. And so I always tell people to establish morning routines or routine in general, because not everybody's going to be a morning person. Wake up in the morning. You might wake up 11, 12, but establish a routine as soon as you wake up, because you're opening your eyes, right? You're alive. Start by being grateful for that, whatever that means for you. You know, I'm not saying religion is necessarily what anybody does, but whatever works for you, as soon as you wake up, you need to tap into that. Because so many times in the world, we're giving all of these messages about what we should be and who we should be, right? Much like Dr. Amber said, like, we don't even know what our strengths are. We don't even know what we're bringing to the table. But we start by looking at other people's lives, right? That's what we do immediately. So I would say, start with understanding, you know, what your beginning of your day looks like. We don't always have to tap right into social media. I feel like that's a thing that we do naturally in this new world. And then secondly, just making sure that you're not always comparing yourselves with others. Your journey is not anyone else's journey, right? You know, like it's just not. Like it just really just matters about what you have going on. I feel like the world distracts us enough. So we have to start with understanding who we are. And I feel like so many times we lose that in what we are doing these days. So I always tell people to get a routine, understand, much like Dr. Amber said, what it is you like, what are your strengths? Go from there, you know, and then just tap out of the phones. Let's get out of these phones. Get out of these phones.
I love it. So you spoke on connectedness, and I like that. Go inward first before we go outward. I think that's huge. So lady, I think we're going to wrap up. It looks like an hour went by fast. I don't know about y'all, but it went by fast for me. I really appreciate everything that you guys shared. And our audience has some good comments. I know sometimes people were like, oh, that's fire. We can recap Rochelle recap some of the comments before we head out. But before we head out, I did really quick, Dr. Sessoms, just if you wanted to tell our audience about liberatory education and what is it and why we need it, we can do that like really quick. You want to share that?
And so I think it's basic. There's a system that's in place. So we got to get to like self and looking at the system. So looking at being collaborative and looking at the whole system. But liberatory space is really like, how do I unlearn the things that I learned about myself that makes me feel like I don't belong in these spaces? So I need to learn the power, like of the valuation. I talk about how I have this world, how have I betrayed myself? How do I then disrupt that and create a new story that allows me to be more expansive in myself? And then how do I make sure I'm in alignment so that I can freedom dream and think of a new way to live and learn that gets out of this box, because of the oppressive systems keep us boxed in and that we don't think outside of that. And the people that have been freedom dreamers have always been us. So that's where we go back to like that innate core of like who we are as a people, that we will dream the dreams.
Yes.
Always.
Yes. Thank you for that. It's been a blessing to share this hour with you guys. And I don't say that lightly. I believe that we grow through what we go through, and everything that you guys have said have blessed me in one way or another. I've heard it before, but it hit different tonight because, again, you two are Black women in the mental health space, and what you're doing is powerful. So continue to do what it is that you do. How can our audience get in contact with you? Can you drop your information either in the chat, or you can give it to us and we'll drop it in the chat for you?
Want you to make sure you go ahead and say it verbally, so the folks that might be seeing this on live stream, they can catch up with you all. But just if you are on the live stream, you can also get all their information on the website, which is thealignment.life. We'll make sure you get that. But go ahead, Sequoyah, since you off mute, you go ahead and let the folks know how they can get in touch with you. I'm sorry, Tami, I just want to make sure they say it so folks can.
That's good, because she's off mute right now. So got her.
Absolutely. So I'm typing my website in the chat, but my website is literally my name, SequoyahSherrill.com. You can check me on Instagram, on Facebook. My organization is On My Couch and Solid Ground Wellness, but everything can be captured at SequoyahSherrill.com. I'm dropping it in the website, in the chat right now.
Awesome sauce. Awesome.
And me, my business is called Natural Inclination LLC, but it is www.aniclination.com. Or I found is you can just Google my name and it comes up first. So Amber Sessoms, SESSOMS. I've learned about those CEOs, whatever that stands for. It helps you. Right?
Oh, yeah.
The SEO.
You literally can just search my name and you will find my website.
Okay now. Well, Dr. Amber Sessoms and Ms. Sequoyah Sherrill, we want to thank you again for joining us. If you're in the live, hold on tight. We're going to the after party. But before that, Rochelle's going to take us out. So I'm passing the virtual mic to you. Here you go, my girl.
Woo! Okay. It's so beautiful when things just come together and it's so aligned. All right.
You can't say that word enough, though.
I can't get enough. All right. I didn't realize how much I use that word in my daily routine. But listen, y'all. This was amazing. If you're watching on the live stream, watch on the replay, we really hope that you got some gems. There were some things like these ladies took it in their own direction, and I'm grateful for it, because I feel like what was shared today, there's someone out there that's going to watch this and they're going to see it in the time that they need it. And that's what this is all about. We want to be able to show up when you need it, be able to understand that there's folks out there that might be going through what you're going through, went through what you're going through, and have just that sense of, hope, that drop of water when you feel like you're in a desert, that light in the darkness, wherever you are in your space. Listen, we all here have been through our own things, but one thing is for certain and for sure, that everything begins with the mindset. There's a reason why we started with the mindset, because that is the top before you get to the root and the bottom. Listen, if you're watching this on a replay, you're watching this live stream, I just want to say that you are important. We're grateful for you. And we pray that, and we hope that there's something that resonates with your spirit that help you to transform something. But listen, we had some esteemed guests today. Thank you so much, Dr. Sessoms. Thank you, Sequoyah, for joining us and saying yes to this passion project. Okay. And we're going to continue to amplify what you do, because we've learned, I'm sure, so much more about what you do. But for the folks that are watching, we want you to make sure you go ahead and head on over. I'm going to share my screen really quickly. Clearly, she don't know how to multitask. I'm going to share my screen really quickly, right? The website that you see on the screen, if you want to connect with these ladies, their information is all there, their bio, their how to get in contact with them. Okay. Feel free to do that. But also, we want to make sure, if you haven't already, we want to make sure you have the opportunity to go ahead and grab a shirt, the alignment shirt. All right. So the alignment shirt, just so you know, it is benefiting two organizations that are about the folks in our community. When you purchase the shirt, proceeds will be going to Beehive Affordable Housing Outreach, which is located in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Another portion of the proceeds will be benefiting the Campaign for a Cause nonprofit scholarship that helps nonprofits that have limited budgets to help them to amplify their messages online. Okay. Everything that we do is, say it with me, aligned. All right. So but we would just want to thank you for watching. Folks that's here on a Zoom, stay tapped in. But listen, this is one of 4. Next week, join us same time, same day, Wednesday, June 14th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are going to be touching on the alignment of the body. You got the mind, the heart, the body, and the heart and soul. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you all next week, next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great one.
Bye for now.